If you guys don't mind, today I would like to maybe get your insights on something. Would that be fair game today? And so, and you guys are ready to play full out? So the subject today is how do you set yourself up for success?
Hmm. I can't tell if I'm muted. I'm on my phone. Am I muted?
You're not muted.
Okay. I don't know how to. I'm on my cell phone, so I don't know how to run the thing.
Well, so step one, how do you set yourself up for success is you learn how to be on Zoom on your cell phone because you never know when you're going to be.
Oh, brother.
There's three settings. You got to swipe on one side. There's three screen. There's one.
Two, it's just me.
Then
I still don't see any controls.
and it should be on the first one, and then you should see
Oh,
them at the bottom.
Are
I
you
see. It's at the bottom. Yeah. Well, you don't want to. You don't want me to mute right now. We're going to talk a little, right?
when you
Yeah.
when you ask
No, we're
that
all going to talk. Yeah. This this
when you
this is
ask
a
that
this is not the bobbing head game. This is the make it happen game. You know. Hey Tracy, Maricel, our conversation today is everybody here on this call. I'd like to kind of dig into how do you each of you set yourself up for success. That makes sense. And it's interesting. I was working with a group late last week, and they posed that question. And at first I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting. And then as we started taking it apart, I was kind of taken aback by some of the insights that came up that I wasn't even thinking about. And as I pondered that, so I think it would be wise for us to engage in that conversation a bit. Does that make sense? You game for that? Would they think that would help you out? This being the Holy Week Thursday for those in the Christian tradition, it's a good time to pause and really kind of play with that. Hey, and Eric, your rendition of "O Sacred Head" was good. I played it a few times. That was really good work.
Thank you. That's my arrangement for the vibes. He didn't. There's not a vibe part for that.
Yeah, it was really good.
It's a beautiful setting, isn't it?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Every time. Yeah.
Was that
Yeah.
was that a song or something?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a setting. Well, it the text, the Bach did a setting of there's a hymn based on the words "O Sacred Head" that's in most hymnals, I think, at least in.
Mhm.
But this is a contemporary composer who took the text and reset it with very very contemporary harmonies, kind of from a jazz like, if you will. Yeah.
That'd be the reason I'm asking is that tomorrow morning I do there's a recovery. There's men there in the recovery place. They're there for 1 year program, and tomorrow I'm going there, and it's be Holy Friday. So a lot of them work with the Bible, so I know my Bible by heart. And tomorrow we're doing um, basically it's like the crucifixion. So now because they're dealing with the stuff is like we're doing the death part where their old self going to die, and then I do a guided meditation to bring them back to life with a new, like uh, to relive what Jesus is living in their life, like kill the old stuff and rebirth, like resurrect as a new person without all the addiction and all the hurt and stuff. And there's a few songs I was looking for, and that's why you piqued my interest to bring that into that group. It's a
Yeah.
very,
Just so we only played a small bit of the song because I was concerned about there's copyright restrictions on all kinds of different things. But that particular song and setting, I bet you there's a recording on YouTube or someplace.
what would be called?
It's called "O Sacred Head, Sore, Sore, Wounded." And the composer, I'll wait for you to catch it.
Yep.
is David Hurd. Hurd.
Okay. I don't worry about the thing because it's private. Like so I can play anything I
Yeah,
want.
yeah. No, I'm just going to say that the whole song, and it would be I'm sensing in the environment you're talking about, as particularly on Good Friday, I think that song would be absolutely very moving to your people.
Yeah. Thank you.
Uh,
Yeah, it's about 40, sometimes up to 50 guys
Oh my
sitting in a
gosh.
circle where we do I have to do a speech first, then we do a really good guided meditation, and then we finish with some song or whatever. So I'm going to look for that one. Thank you very much. It's
Hey,
Yeah,
hey,
I wish I
Jean-
could. I'll come on and play it for you, but I don't think that would work.
and look, and you know, Tom works in a men's center as well. You guys you'd probably be, if I don't know if have you ever connected up with Tom?
no.
Tom might be a good resource for you guys to talk to each other on things there.
Yeah. I'm
FYI.
always careful with that group because they have their own things, and a lot of guys try to reach out to me, but I can't jump into their stuff. I can help, but I
Yeah,
got because they have a 1-year program that
yeah,
we go and do some, like I'll be doing the stuff for the weekend.
yeah. Cool.
Is it a 12-step basis?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're there for 1 year. When they're in, they're supposed to be there for a year.
Yeah, got it.
Very, very powerful. Like they live there and everything, right?
So the question today is, how do you set yourself up for success? So not how do you help others set themselves up for success. So you in your own, and I'm more interested from a business standpoint, how do you set yourself up for success in your business?
Yeah, and when you said that, two things popped to mind immediately, and they're not necessarily stuff that I do as much as stuff that I've seen or some stuff that I have done. But the first thing that came to mind is, because this is kind of cliche, but success leaves clues. So it's looking for clues. What are the little things that are like happening that are making things happen was the first thing that came to mind. The other one is, it seems like I've heard a lot of stories about it, and I can't think of any specific examples, but the way I would describe it is get in the way of success or get in the way of opportunity. I hear these stories about people who show up and they ask and they get turned down, and maybe they show up and they don't ask, and they're still there and still there and still there. And then suddenly the person that needs something goes, oh, we need someone to do this. Who can we get? What about that person that keeps showing up, that doesn't go away? That's always, you kind of staying top of mind. So when things come up, you're top, because you're always kind of in the way. You're always kind of asking. You're always trying to get in there. And I think big doors open that way. And I know for me, when I get turned down, I tend to shut down. I tend to take no as a no. That's kind of my default. And so what I'm saying is kind of opposite of that, is just kind of continue to show up and can continue to ask, continue to get in the way, and continue to be top of mind.
Okay. I like that. That makes sense. So sometimes it doesn't, and you know, I call it maybe I've been guilty of asking again, asking it another time. And there's a lot of opportunity if you ask again and again. And when you get a no, ask again. Is anybody else experience that? So
And
you
just
have
keep showing up, keep showing up.
just keep showing up, keep showing up, keep showing up, keep showing up. And some days you almost don't want to show up. Show up anyway. That's really, really good, Tom. Really,
And I
really
think
good.
kind of too, if you stop showing up, whether the people are conscious of it or not, there's kind of a little bit of a message sent there that says, well, maybe they weren't that serious about it. Maybe they're not that persistent. But when you keep showing up, that the opposite message gets sent. They are serious. They are persistent. I think that sets out a good message too. So,
Yeah,
because people want to work with someone who's going to continually show up and continually be there, be consistent and be persistent. So,
you know, the biggest mistake that people make with their marketing is they don't do it consistently. And it's interesting. It's not your fancy message. It's not the really polished meme or anything like that. Consistency will win out over and over and over again. When I go backwards and look at somebody, so I'm checking somebody out, and I see they haven't posted since 1992, or the other thing I was looking at somebody the other day, I could see last year for the first 4 months, they posted almost every day. And then nothing. And then nothing. They would have been better off not to post. Does that make sense? Think about that for a moment. So setting yourself up for success is showing up again and again and again and again and again. It's easy to look at somebody, think of the politicians that are out there, the major political parties, right? Do you know how many times Ronald Reagan ran for president and lost? You guys remember Ronald Reagan? Do any of you guys old enough? Do you realize he lost a few times?
Yeah.
But he did it again. Joe Biden, I mean, how many times did he run for president and lose? Remember I don't know if you're old enough to remember, he pulled out of the presidential race the first time because they caught him plagiarizing something, and so he kind of pulled out. He didn't just pull out, he pulled out in disgrace, right? And he kept showing up. Look who's in the White House now, right?
Yeah, and as you say that, that reminds me too that the year before Arnold Schwarzenegger won Mr. Universe, the competition before that, I think he came in like 10th place and he was totally crushed. He just was devastated. And that also reminds me too that Bruce Jenner, the Olympics before he won all the gold medals, that one too, he came in like 10th or was really low. So they both kind of
example after example in politics, in sports, in business. You see some of these business successes out there. Do you know how many times they failed? How many times they showed up and it didn't work? Sometimes I've talked with people, oh, I tried this and it didn't work. Yeah. So how do you set yourself up for success? Tracy.
For me, this like the very, very foundation, and not just in business, but in all ways, is just making really, for me, it's a spiritual foundation, but if spiritual is not your thing, whatever your core is, making sure that you're in alignment with you and what's important to you. And one of the ways this is showing up for me recently is I decided last year, it's like, okay, this year I need to learn about marketing, man. I need to know what I'm doing here. And so I just lots of different things. And, as it is when you study anything, you hear so many different things. And, social media in a billion different approaches. And it wasn't until we did these LinkedIn. I have LinkedIn, but I haven't ever used it much. I like post auxiliary because I have a thing that I can post Instagram and LinkedIn. But when we just did those recent ones, it's like something just clicked. It's like, okay, this is marketing that I feel will work for me. Other things I've tried are like, it just, okay, I'll do it because that's what the experts say I have to do, but it just didn't feel authentic to me. And so really being in alignment, I just read a quote recently from Brendan Burchard that said, your next level of transformation may not be in achievement, it may be in alignment. And I feel like for me, I need to make sure that I am really spiritually aligned, that I'm not letting other things get in the way of that base foundation for me, so that that's where I can serve from, whether it's my family or community or business or wherever it is, to make sure that that base level of alignment is there, and that everything I do is from that. Because that's where the authenticity that you talk about so much, that's where that comes from.
Yeah. I remember when I first started working with Chet, and they trained us like crazy. The training I got when I got on Chet's team was right. You guys know who John Assaraf is? And so when I got on Chet's team, and like if you were one of the topper people, he made sure you had a one-on-one call with John. I didn't even know who John was. It was like, it's like, that level. But Tracy, that was it more than anything, right? If you don't if you don't have this right, you're never going to project to the world. Everything you project is going to feel inauthentic or phony or contrived or what I call kind of cut and paste. You know, you follow the guru and they give you the formula and you just fill in the blanks. It doesn't work like that. You know, it works somewhere one time like that, and then there's like, oh, just follow the and I say that kind of tongue in cheek because I give these copy and paste things. Hey, here's the framework, but ultimately you have to put yourself into that framework authentically in alignment. So that's really key, really key. And
My
then
turn.
And I totally agree with you, Donald, about consistency. It's really, really important. I do agree with Tracy with spiritual alignment. Your life flows from that center.
yeah.
And I think I'm working, I do have spiritual alignment. My consistency is lacking. But the other point is, I remember saying 1,000-mile journey starts with a single step. That's one thing. And the other, visibility. I have heart to allow myself to be more visible. And that I'm working on that kind of thing that's connected with consistency. If I'm consistent in being out there and forget about this saboteur, then I think I will be making some successes.
Okay, I like that.
Arnold, this one's dear to my heart. Mentorship.
Mm.
You
Oh.
represent a big part of that. I'm 68, a little older than you. And looking back and everything I research, and I read a lot and research. My parents are Holocaust victims. They're survivors. So they were great parents. They were great providers, and they were loving, but they were not nurturing. They did not mentor me. They did not. And it took me decades, really, as you will not be surprised. I had to learn everything I know by reading, socialization, eye contact. Doesn't matter what it was, I had to read it first because I had no mentors. And as I look at people, as I observe, all right, I'm with a friend now in San Diego who had a pretty basic government job and is now a multimillionaire because he had a mentor. He had this guy from New York City, an older guy, who came across to Spokane to literally hide out from the mafia. But he knew how to invest. He knew how to do things. He taught my friend how to use his money. And now at age, well, he's 78, but he's got millions because his friend taught him what to do. And it's dear to my heart because now, today, you represent that mentor now, finding someone to hook up with who knows more than you do and teaches you and opens up vistas for you. There's no substitute for that, I don't think. Getting somebody who can really broaden your perspective and open up the field for you that you can't do for yourself and teach you.
Interesting. Well, it's like, it's like being in music. I always laugh at these learn by yourself methods that you see online. And it's like, really? Good luck with that. You know what I mean? Like, good luck with that one. So it's not just and some, we're all guilty. Anybody bought a training program?
Matchbook.
Right.
What was that? Matchbook Artist. Remember
Right,
those?
or another program, and think somehow magically in that program are the answers. Might be. I'm not gonna say it's not, and I'm not against buying programs, so full disclosure, or buying another book, because I'm big on that. I do that consistently. I often am ordering another book on Amazon and it's showing up at the door. And just myself bought another training program last week. But that's not it. It's part of it, but it's good mentors. It is, and it's finding those people. The key to, do you know how to find a good mentor? Find somebody who is mentored. A good mentor has a mentor themselves. if you plug into somebody and they're not tied into somebody else, that's a red flag. When I was younger, I had a full studio as a piano teacher, and I was, I guess, somewhat sought after. I mean, I had students that were traveling quite a distance and time to come and study with me. I wasn't just the neighborhood piano teacher. It's kind of funny. I had a little boy in the neighborhood taking lessons from me, and I don't think he never did really get what kind of a piano teacher I really was. He just happened to live in the neighborhood, but I wasn't the neighborhood piano teacher, right? I was the sought after teacher. And after going through conservatory and anything like that, I still had to seek out the masters and and pay for the high level master classes to perfect my technique and sometimes just be reminded of stuff that I already knew, quite honestly. I go to a master class and sometimes I didn't learn anything new. Isn't that shocking? I would learn what I already knew, but I had to be plugged in. I had to be plugged in. And I still kind of, to this day, I'm kind of like a piano teacher emeritus in the local piano teachers association, and they call me in once or twice a year for stuff, and I still plugged into it. You never leave that type of thing. That's really good. How do you set yourself up for success is our question today.
Donald, I don't remember. Maybe somebody knows who said this of the. Anyway, I've heard probably in the last 15 or 20 years somebody say this, and I've thought about this, is don't be the smartest person in the room. And by that, in other words, I mean, I'd love to be the smartest person in the room. Don't get me wrong. I think all of us would. And what if you're the smartest person in the room, or the whatever est person in the room, what is there to learn in that room? What is there to get from those people, other than just to be reinforced as being really smart? And that stuck with me because there's a cynical side to that as well. I mean, it can sound all kinds of things that maybe are not that positive. Yet I found I look for, when I'm in different situations, I look for the people in the room who clearly either know things I don't know or have insight that I would like to have. So I don't know. And I'm attracted. I also find, and this is maybe my own little quirk, I look for people who I either have a sense or I already know I won't agree with. And I want to talk to them because I don't necessarily expect to change them over to my way of thinking or vice versa, but I want to hear what went behind their way of thinking because it's somewhat foreign to me. And that more often than not gives me ideas, not necessarily that I embrace their way of thinking, but it gives me ideas that give me inspiration or other ideas.
And I think that, Eric, that too, there's like the two sides of that. On the one hand, yeah, don't be the smartest person in the room because you always want to have something to learn. But the opposite side of that is if you think you're the smartest person in the room, you might be right, but you're always wrong. Because there's always somebody in the room who knows more about something than you do. If I go into a room with Donald, he absolutely knows more about horses than I do. I like horses, but I've never owned a horse. He knows more than I do. But there are things that I know more about than Donald does. So you might be right that you're the smartest in this area, but you are absolutely wrong that you're the smartest in the room, period.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you. Thank you, Tracy.
And the subtle distinction there too is, and Tracy, it is like it's other information or even other viewpoints. And so echoing what Eric says, you don't want to be the smartest person in the room, but you do want to be smart, right? But the other thing too is I think it's so easy for us to get stuck in our default. In marketing, one of the axioms of marketing that we know is that people will default to what they're used to, what they're comfortable with. So like when you bring a new product to market, I was having a conversation with somebody in Australia yesterday, and he's got a friend. So he says, Donald, can you help me out? He says, I got a friend that thinks that he wants to make sausage out of fish. Right? He's got this great idea. I says, okay, number one, people that eat sausage are not going to eat fish sausage. And people that eat fish maybe don't want it in sausage format, right? And your friend might have this incredible idea, okay, but the default, activity there is not leaning itself towards that being successful, no matter how brilliant an idea that is. And so sometimes we have a brilliant idea, but we fail to see it from multiple opinions that would either help us validate that or says, hey, that's the wrong thing. And so I think you have to train yourself to look at other viewpoints, and probably ones that maybe you might even find disgusting or disagreeable. Think about politics or religion or any of the big topics like that, or nutrition. I imagine nutrition is controversial. Oh my gosh. There's a new idea about it every 2 minutes, and another expert in another scientific study says something entirely different. And so it's the ability to look at different opinions, I think, is part of that process. And so when you come into a room and you have the attitude that you don't want to be the smartest person, what you're saying is, I am open to other ideas. And that's part of the subtle subtitle, I think, of what Eric is pointing out there. Right? How do you set yourself up for success?
This just popped to mind, risk failure, I guess. Just kind of popped up when you said that.
Explain yourself, and then we'll let Marisol go.
Oh, did she put her hand up? I'm sorry,
Oh,
Marisol.
Tom,
Yeah.
chill.
It's the polite Irishman in me. So yeah, so I guess just because I think everyone's dream is to put their first foot forward and it be a huge success and be a total masterpiece and it's all perfect, but that's really not reality. And you have to make several steps and fall multiple times. You have to risk that failure if you want to get to the success. If you want to set yourself up for success, you got to risk that failure repeatedly, again and again and again. It'd be nice if our first step was a huge master success, but statistics aren't there for that. So
Show me somebody successful, and I'll show you somebody who's failed more than anybody else around them. I know, Tom, I'm going to be crazy successful this year, because it is March, and I tell you, from January 1 to here, I have blown it over and over again in the last 3 months. That's exciting.
yeah, because the odds says you're gonna flip that and you're bound to hit a big one. So
yeah, my wife kind of had this conversation, like, where are we at with stuff? I says, well, I tell you, this hasn't worked out, and this hasn't worked out, and this is stalled out, and that didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. So
isn't that great?
It's the old story I always tell, getting back to horses, Tracy. There's this little girl, and with horses, there's something called a round pen, and that's where they exercise the horse, so they get the wiggles out of the horse. They put it in this round pen, they run it around and around, and there's this little girl in the round pen, and she is flinging horse poop, and just giddy as everything out. And somebody says, oh, come on, like, why are you so happy, right? Because she says, with all this in here, there's got to be a pony somewhere, right? And so, to Tom's point, you have to go through that. There's not a way to get to the promised land without going through the desert. If you get to the promised land without going through the desert, it's like people that, Tracy, like people that win the lottery often end up worse. I mean, I have never in my life bought a lottery ticket, not even once. right? I wouldn't wish winning the lottery on anybody. I think that is a fate worse than death. How you get success determines the quality of that success. Yeah, so risk failure. Maricel, how do you set yourself up for success?
Can I share my screen?
You can, and if you can't, I'll make sure you, there you go.
So I posted this card, this quote on LinkedIn, and that's the only thing I post ever. I think I shared something, but and it had a lot of people commenting and impressions. But Maya Angelou says success is liking yourself, liking what you do, and liking how you do it. And I love it. And recently, this last week, to me, it was about mindset. It was about, instead of thinking all the things I don't have enough clients, I don't have enough money to take my girls on vacation, I don't have whatever. I start looking at what I have. And I start looking at, oh my gosh, I have beautiful health. I live in a beautiful city, probably one of the most beautiful in the world, with an ocean view. And I have a beautiful house. And I start looking at all the beautiful things I have. And like magic, it elevated my energy. And I start attracting people. I have a wait list on this group coaching. I'm doing mental fitness, and I was stuck for 6 months, and now I have like 22 clients in groups, in pods, and I don't have to do anything. They are bringing friends, they're bringing spouses. So bottom line, I think, to me, my key to success was engaging into gratitude.
Yeah, I remember when I worked with Tony Robbins. I mean, he would, and I remember the first time he said it, and of course I was like, "Oh, come on, really?" I mean, like what? Like, But Marisol, I know the same thing. I live kind of in the woods, and I've got about an acre, but I mean, there's so many trees. My neighbors have got multiple acres, and so there's just branches everywhere all the time. So in my far yard, right, I had this big pile of branches waiting to burn up, right? And so finally Sunday, the weather was dry enough, just enough wind that I wouldn't smoke out my neighbors, set the thing on fire. And I sit down there burning a pile of branches in my yard. And it just struck me how when I was a kid, I mean, we would travel out into the forest because we lived in the city, right? To sit in a campground, to build a little fire, right, in the state park or whatever. And here I am, my yard is nicer than any of those state parks that I went to as a kid. And it's mine, right? I'm looking at my own trees, and just it's looking out your own door wherever you are, and just enjoying the world that's sitting there. Even if you're in Minnesota, I mean, there's nice places that there. Even if you're in Minnesota, I know. It's just very, very, very true. And then see what was the magic that happened, right? You started smiling more, and doggone it, what is the key to marketing? Remember when I talked to you guys about LinkedIn today? It says that picture with your smile. When I say that, when I do the workshop, I mean, I gave you guys kind of like the, speed dating version of my workshop, but we go deep on that picture and how important that smile is. And that it's not just a smile, and it's not a canned glamour shot smile, that it's just a true, authentic, heartfelt smile on your LinkedIn profile. And we've A/B tested the pictures on people's profiles and seen it change results.
And the funny thing is, as I was listening to Marisol talking and she had that slide up, what really occurred to me is maybe the first step you need to take to set yourself up for success is really define what success is. Because I was looking at that going, wow, that's what this person thinks of success. I bet each of us have a very different view of what success is. So I think defining it because it's like, how are you going to get there if you don't know what it is? I think really being
that-
clear
Oh my,
on
that's
what it
another,
is to you.
yeah, but that's a whole nother question.
Right.
Thanks, Tom, for going 10 layers deeper and off to the side. But yeah, absolutely. It's like,
When you're
how do you-
buried under 10 layers of snow most of the year, you're used to going
yeah.
10 layers deeper. So
It's like, what is that? One of my young men that I've mentored over the years, Daniel, that was the question that he would always pose to me. He says, what is success for you? That was his questions. And it was interesting. He was probably, 16 or 17, and he's in his mid-20s now. But I said, he says, how can I find this out? I says, well, at your age, why don't you just call some CEOs, some companies, right? And he just literally cold called into a number of companies and left a voicemail. Hey, this is Daniel. I'm doing a project for my school class, and how do you define success? Do you know what happened?
you got callbacks, I bet.
He got a call back from a CEO of a big company, like big company, and that almost took him under his wings and gave him all kinds of insight and opportunity. And I said, maybe you could pull it off, when you're 60 years. I think you could pull it off anytime. But I mean, the guy was just tickled that he had called him and left a voicemail, and it had gone through the chain of command, and he got a call back from the CEO of this big company, just with that question, Tom. So how do you set yourself up for success?
Well, you're hitting on it. The corollary to mentorship is networking. There's two, it's not the elephant in the room exactly, but in life there's two fundamental paths you got to choose between. You can be a Machiavellian, dirty, rotten guy, and those guys are very successful to a point. Or you can be a social, cooperative kind of a success person. And if you're going to be that person, it's not sufficient just to be social and friendly and kind. You have to be strategic in your sociality. You have to, who do I want to associate with? Who's a good, high quality person to be associated with? Who's somebody I don't want to spend a lot of time and going down rabbit holes with? And who knows who? And it's, I know people sort of make light of that. Who knows? It's who you know, not what you know. But it's such a lot of truth to that. Who can boost your position? Who can move you ahead? And who's going to drag you sideways or down a rabbit hole or get you associated with somebody you do not want to be associated with? So the corollary to, mentorship is associations and networks. And you don't need to be deep friends with everybody, but you need a lot of light connections and light, ties to a lot of people who can open doors for you.
And the key that unlocks that door is curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, well, there's actually probably a number of ways to unlock that door, but I have found the most successful way to unlock that door is curiosity. I'm just curious. And when I'm curious, hey, I'm curious, Tracy, how did you find your way to Southern California? Right? It's like, Jean-Luc, I mean, I'm just curious. I mean, how did you get, working with that group where you would be able to come in on Friday and share, I'm curious, Eric, where did you buy those mallets? And it's just the ordinary curiosity, right, that opens that door. And then by people's response and how you respond to Richard's point, somebody comes back and almost bites your head off. Well, maybe that's not the right door to open, right? But if somebody comes back and that key, you have found the authentic key, that lets you out. I'm just kind of curious. I mean, how did you get past 1.5 million in annual sales within your first year? Did you hear that question? It's a golden question. How did you get past 1.5 million sales in your first year? And then the follow-up question, how come in year 3 to 7, you haven't got much past that? When I work with Chet, this is one of the questions he taught us to ask people. It's like, how did you get, because we were targeting businesses, the sweet spot would be a business that was about 1 million, maybe somewhere between 750,000 and 1.5, business sense that they've actually got some kind of a business, but still not enough business, right? But we would ask, I'm curious, how did you get to 1.5 million in sales? And says, oh, actually, we're not quite there, or so we'd never say, how much sales did you get last year? Because they wouldn't give us that question. I mean, what's your revenue this last year? It's like, how did you get to 1.5 million in sales? How did you get to your first 1.5? Do you see the question? I'm curious. How did you make your first 1.5 million in gross sales? Do you see the doors that unlocked? Eric, you paying attention? It's like, really? It's like some people would say, well, actually, I'm struggling at about 750K. Really? How long you been struggling like that? It's just like, or like, yeah, we blew past 1.5 and we got to 2.3 million. Really? Yeah, but we kind of been plateaued there for the last 4 or 5 years. Really? Why do you think that is? Do you see the curiosity factor? How did you lose your last 10 pounds? Well, actually, I've never lost 10 pounds. I struggle. I can usually get about 5 to 7 off, but then I just stall out every time. Really? Tell me about that. You see the curiosity question? It gets you into the network.
Well, it's real easy to not be curious, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's very comfortable to not ask those questions.
Yeah. I'm curious how long you've been coming to the gym and working out like that. Kind of impressed with your workout. How long you been coming to the gym to work out like that? I'm curious. You're on your third spouse? Henry VIII, I am. What happened to the first two?
But you always teach us to build rapport. It's not just,
It's not pleasantries necessarily.
it opens up doors. People are so,
Mhm.
I read a lot on just sociality. Everybody knows people who talk nonstop and don't listen. But
Really?
Everybody-
I don't know.
everybody
Eric,
has-
Eric, do you know anybody like that? I don't know anybody like that. Who do you
But-
hang out with, Richard?
also people who take the time. I remember when I was young, just in college, we went to somebody's house on a trip and his dad was a dentist or whatever. And I remember, being pretty young and learning things in life. His dad, I'm a college kid, 20, 19, 20, whatever. His dad took the time to just sit and ask questions and learn about me. And just, here's this, middle-aged, whatever, taking the time to just ask questions and learn it. At that young age, you're just learning about life. I still remember to this day, it blew me away how that guy took the time to just ask me questions about myself.
Yeah.
It opens the door to other things.
Yeah. Genuine curiosity. So not canned curiosity, but genuine curiosity. How do you set yourself up for success? Anyone else?
I think you got to play the long-term game. Like right now, I'm in the Icon webinar or whatever. It's a 3-day thing. I took a break to come here because you always trigger something in me. And to be able to build rapport is a long-term game. Not like, I need money right now, but you got to relax and have those meetings. And now being involved, I always got my full name on my thing. And right now, just from yesterday, I got 5 or 6, and then there'll probably more people reached out to me on the calendar. So I got meetings for the next couple of weeks because every time you ask for somebody to share, and I don't know if you know Tom Matson, he's Canadian, so he likes me. He's known me for a bit. So I always talk and share, and off of that you get comments, and then people are reaching out now to talk to me. And it's a long game, right? It's not like there might not be clients, but I might be able to do JV. I might be able to do some podcasts. A lot of podcasts are there. And to me, it's like, yeah, be nice and just create those connection. And I get that from you. A lot of things like, I know I pay attention to what you say. Sometimes you don't look like I am, but I am always looking. And that's why I took a break from them to come here, because I like the way you approach things. And every time we talk, you always got some insight that I take to heart and really work with them.
And so the word is patience. So how do you set yourself up for success? It's having patience.
Basically.
Yeah.
And actually, as you had said that before, Jean-Luc, what occurred to me is how to set yourself up for success is to say yes. To say yes to opportunities, to say yes to what shows up, to keep saying yes to things. I think if you're a person that says no to things all the time, I think there's like an energy blocker kind of closes down. But if you're someone who says yes to this and yes to that, it puts out a different energy, that you're a doer, that you try things. And I think it kind of shifts everything. I think no and yes are very positive or powerful words. And if you're a person that says no to everything, you're going to get no. And if you're a person that says yes a lot, I think that you're more likely to end up in success.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so I reached out to a lot of people a while ago, and then I call it throwing spaghetti against the wall. The only thing they can say is no, right? But now off of this, right away, there's one that is well known here. We're going to do a in-person class. It's not a big money, but it's like I talk a bit about it. And to me, that's a big deal, because it gets me in front of people again to speak and get the basic stuff, which I usually don't talk much, because back to on paper, on a computer. And then I share more in LinkedIn, because like Donald says, LinkedIn, and I got a lot of, one of them, I think I got 300 clicks on one post, was about pets, which is my big deal. And I got another one I want to do. I did a few more, and then this weekend I will share the one I'm going to share tomorrow morning about rebirth, right? From addiction and stuff. So yeah, so I'm to be involved, to keep going, to keep being out there.
Excellent. Thank you.
So Donald, how do you set yourself up for success?
Oh, thank you, Tracy. I paid Tracy to ask that question at the right moment. Did you notice that? Right? The way I set myself up for success is I develop advocates. I develop people who advocate for me. I'm looking for people who will promote my name out there. Is one of my businesses, we've been going after angel investors, because it's electronics, and we're going to market, and you need money, right, to do all this stuff. You got to, it's patents, and we've got our second round of prototypes built and all kinds of stuff. And so we need serious money. We need, a few $1 million to get to market and stuff. So we're going after investors. You can't go to investors directly. You have to have somebody introduce you to somebody that will be an investor. That's just how it works. It's a protocol type of a thing. At a certain level of investment, you don't approach them. It's like on LinkedIn. I don't approach investors on LinkedIn. I approach people that would become my advocates with those investors. Is more power, and that's what, does that make sense? It's a subtlety there, right? It's a subtlety. Develop advocates as you're reaching out on social media, as you're doing events. You want people not necessarily they're going to become your clients or buy anything from you. You look for people that will be your advocates to the market you're trying to engage. It's one step over. And so, Tracy, oftentimes people in your network already, they're not your ideal clients, but they can become your advocates to your ideal clients. Develop advocates. Good stuff.
Brilliant.
Of course it's brilliant. All of you guys are brilliant. It's just like the game. It's like I always think, what is it? So, you know, it's sometimes the answer is right in front of us, but we have to kind of bring it out and remind ourselves. And I'm glad I hit the record button. So I'm gonna go back. This is a good one to kind of post and to kind of rewatch. And like, so here's the Marisol. I mean, here's the danger, right? Like you kind of go through it's like, oh, well, that's all obvious, right? But are you really doing that? Right. And it's good then to go back. And as Richard points out, yeah, you have to have good mentors, but sometimes you have to mentor yourself. I mean, sometimes you have to get up in the morning and look in the mirror and go, okay, Marisol, what do I need to do today? Right. And it's like, I look at the word like, Donald, what do you need to do today? Right. And it's not what you think it is, right? And something that's probably going to be a little bit outside your comfort zone, or maybe not, you know, what do you need to do today? And then do it. And then do it, you know, and just so simple as that is, just do it. Most people fail to succeed just because they just don't do it. Nike built a whole business on that slogan, just do it. That's something. They think about the power. So you have to think about a company like that. Do you know how much research and time was spent there? I don't, but I bet it was quite a bit to come up to that with that very obvious phrase. Just do it. Coca-Cola. What's the phrase for Coca-Cola? It's the real thing. Isn't that crazy? It's the real thing. It's not the fake thing. It's the real thing. I mean, they still use that. I mean, I grew up in the 60s and the 70s. You know, I mean, that's Coke was the real thing. You could have any other soda, but Coke's the real thing. Why would you not get a Coke if you had an option? And then I've even A/B tested this for one of our big choral events. We used to do a big barbecue at the end. Silly me, I'd be grilling 500 hamburgers, you know, but we would provide sodas, you know, back in that day. And we'd buy all the different sodas and we could never buy enough Coke. We could never buy enough Coke. The Coke was gone first. We'd have root beer, we'd have Sprite, we'd have everything, right? Water, juice, right? Organic juices. I mean, seriously, and all that stuff. And do you know what was gone? The Coke. Fairly health conscious crowd. Fairly with it crowd. Northwest, you know what I mean? Grass-fed hamburgers. Coca-Cola went. It's the real thing. Think of it. Does that make sense, Marcel? And it's like we sit here, we look at that. You see, we look at that logically and we go, right? Default. It's the real thing. So Marisol, it's like when you were inside yourself, you know, when you felt that, when you felt yourself, right? See how powerful that was? That's the magic. That's the magic. And you see, somebody else can't rip that off because they can't be you. They can't be your magic. They could take every word you say. AI could reproduce it and make it fancy and everything like that, but it still can't be you. Excellent. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. We got 12 steps here on setting ourselves up for success. Pretty cool, huh? Okay, my friends. Have a good Holy Week.